Facebook fan page and our YouTube channel, Michael M. Hotep. How's everybody doing today? Okay, let's go back to this article here. But the emails were actually spoofed and had been designed to incite social unrest and damage Donald Trump, said John Ratcliffe, the director of the DNI, National Director of National Intelligence. Ratcliffe did not explain how the emails were damaging to Donald Trump because they were urging Democrats to switch to the Republican Party. Ratcliffe did not provide any evidence for the attribution. Now, many states, including Florida, make voters' information, including their names and party affiliations, easily accessible to members of the public who request it. Both Iran and Russia had obtained some Americans' voter registration information, John Ratcliffe said. Now, it's not clear actually how they got it. Was it through hacking? What is not exactly clear. In the same news conference, FBI Director Christopher Wray said there was still no way for Iranian or Russian intelligence to change American votes. Okay, FBI Director Christopher Wray said there was still no way for Iranian or Russian intelligence to change American votes. You should be confident that your vote counts, FBI Director Christopher Wray said. Okay, so just check out this article here. We'll post a link here. FBI says Iran behind threatening emails sent to Florida Democrats. Iran and Russia had obtained some Americans' voter registration information, said John Ratcliffe, the director of national intelligence. Okay, how much time before the break, Shakita? You don't have to test. Just come on the air and tell me, because I want to go to this clip if we can before the break. You said 1 minute. All right. Okay. We'll go to this clip after the break. How's everybody doing on our social media platforms? The African History Network on Facebook and Michael M. Hotep on YouTube. When we come back from the break, we'll go to a couple of clips here from President Barack Obama on the campaign trail attacking Donald Trump. And he attacked Trump he blasted Trump over the mishandling of the coronavirus response. Okay. Let's see. At a speech in Philadelphia, Obama said his successor had endangered the country and, quote, is incapable of taking the job seriously. He said 8 months into the pandemic, cases are rising again across the country. Donald Trump isn't suddenly going to protect all of us. He can't even take the basic steps to protect himself. Now, earlier today, President Barack Obama spoke at a roundtable event and acknowledged that, quote, the pandemic would have been tough for any president. But without mentioning Donald Trump by name, he stressed, quote, the degree of incompetence and misinformation, the number of people who might not have died if we'd have done the basics, the number of people who might not have died if we'd have done the basics. Okay. You listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 a.m. the Superstation and Future Radio. I'm Michael M. Hotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, everybody stand by. All right, everybody stand by. Stand by. All right, we're on commercial break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Just stand by. How's everybody doing? All right. On Thursday's show, we'll do a recap of the presidential debate, and we'll do fact checking also, like we normally do. So you don't want to miss that. All right, stand by, everybody. I need to connect to the radio station. Stand by, everybody. Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Okay. This is Michael calling back. All right, thanks. All right, stand by, everybody. Okay, we got Brian, Erica, Boosie, Latham, C, we had Anthony, Sharon. All right, we'll be back in a couple minutes here. I said I'm problems with the computer, and it updated my Windows today, and I was having problems trying to get everything up and running for the show. It did. It spent like about 2 hours updating Windows today. All right. Okay, Greg, Sherwin, how's everybody doing? Okay, everybody share this broadcasting on social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. Stand by. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation of Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Wednesday, October 21st, 2020. Halloween will be here soon. So right around Halloween, we'll do a special show. We'll deal with the history of Halloween as well, All Hallows Eve. We'll deal with some of that history. And then on our Thursday night show, Thursday, October 22nd, we're going to do a recap of the presidential debate. And we'll do fact checking also. We'll do a recap analysis and fact checking. All right. Okay, so on today's show, we're going to deal with, we'll talk some about what happened on the campaign trail today. We had some clips of President Barack Obama on the campaign trail, and he was attacking Donald Trump. Also, we'll deal with Black-owned businesses face disaster without federal coronavirus aid. Black-owned businesses face disaster without federal coronavirus aid. It doesn't necessarily look like there's going to be a deal on a coronavirus relief package before the November 3rd election. And then also we see a rise in cases in 1,000 new cases of COVID-19, at least 39 states seeing a rise, and COVID-related deaths climbing in at least 27 states. The nation has now reported more than 8 million cases, with a death toll that has exceeded 222,000, according to the latest NBC News tally. All right. So on the campaign trail today, President Barack Obama said that they literally left a pandemic playbook for Donald Trump that he did not follow. Let's go to this clip.
We literally left this White House a pandemic playbook that would have shown them how to respond before the virus reached our shores. They probably used it to, I don't know, prop up a wobbly table somewhere. We don't know where that playbook went. 8 months into this pandemic, cases are rising again across this country. Donald Trump isn't suddenly going to protect all of us. He can't even take the basic steps to protect himself. Just last night, he complained up in Erie that the pandemic made him go back to work. I'm quoting him. He was upset that the pandemic's made him go back to work. If he'd actually been working the whole time, it never would have gotten this bad. So look, here's the truth. I want to be honest here. This pandemic would have been challenging for any president. But this idea that somehow this White House has done anything but completely screw this up is just not true. I'll give you a very specific example. Korea identified its first case at the same time that the United States did. At the same time. Their per capita death toll is just 1.3% of what ours is. In Canada, it's just 39% of what ours is. Other countries are still struggling with the pandemic, but they're not doing as bad as we are because they've got a government that's actually been paying attention. And that means lives lost. And that means an economy that doesn't work. And just yesterday, when asked if he'd do anything differently, Trump said, not much. Really? Not much? Nothing you can think of that could have helped some people keep their loved ones alive? So Joe's not going to screw up testing. He's not going to call scientists idiots. He's not going to host a super spreader event at the White House. Joe will get this pandemic under control with a plan to make testing free and widely available, to get a vaccine to every American cost-free, and to make sure our frontline heroes never to ask other countries for the equipment they need.
All right, so that was in Philadelphia today. Now it was an outdoor event. It was a drive-in rally. So that's why people were honking their horns. It was a drive-in rally because they're not going to have a super spreader event. So they want to keep people safe due to coronavirus. Okay, so the news came out from the New York Times on Tuesday. We didn't get a chance to talk about it on our Tuesday show, but the news came out about a secret Chinese bank account that the New York Times reported on that Donald Trump has a secret Chinese bank account. And President Obama talked about that also. Let's go to clip 4. I just sent you some more clips, Shakita. You have clip 4 queued up? We'll go to clip 4 in just a minute here. During a campaign speech in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, President Obama slammed Donald Trump for the New York Times reporting that he had a secret Chinese bank account. Okay. All right, we'll go to that in just a minute. Let me know when we have clip 4 queued up, Shakita. Calling numbers 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600 is the calling number. If you have a question or comment. Okay, let's go to clip 4.
The only people truly better off than they were 4 years ago are the billionaires who got his tax cuts. Right now, as we speak, Trump won't even extend relief to the millions of families who are having trouble paying the rent or putting food on the table because of this pandemic. But he's been doing all right by himself. As it turns out, this was just reported in the last 48 hours. We know that he continues to do business with China because he's got a secret Chinese bank account. How is that possible? How is that possible? A secret Chinese bank account. Listen, can you imagine if I had a secret Chinese bank account when I was running for re-election? You think Fox News might have been a little concerned about that? They would have called me Beijing Barry. It is not a great idea to have a president who owes a bunch of money to people overseas. That's not a good idea. I mean, of the taxes Donald Trump pays, he may be sending more to foreign governments than he pays in the United States. His first year in the White House, he only paid $750 in federal income tax. Listen, my first job was at a Baskin-Robbins. when I was 15 years old. I think I might have paid more taxes that year working at a dispensing ice cream. How is that possible? How many people here paid less than that? It's possible, just possible now, that if you are living high on the hog and you only pay $750 in taxes, that maybe, just maybe, he might not know what working people are going through here in Pennsylvania. We cannot afford 4 more years of this, Philadelphia.
All right, so that was that was in Philadelphia today. Check out that clip. That's at MSNBC.com. Obama slams Trump for alleged secret Chinese bank account. Says Fox News would have called me Beijing Barry. That's from October 21st, 2020. All right, now the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, just a recap of what took place today dealing with coronavirus news. And then we're going to get into this topic dealing with a social media disinformation campaign to discourage African Americans from voting. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on Wednesday, October 21st, broadened its definition of a close contact, of what a close contact is, of someone infected with the coronavirus, a close contact of someone infected with the coronavirus, a change that will most affect schools, workplaces, and other locations where people congregate for extended periods of time. The new guidance says a close contact is someone who was within 6 feet of an infected person for at least 15 minutes over 24 hours. Within 6 feet of an infected person for at least 15 minutes over 24 hours. Now, also, Donald Trump accused congressional Democratic leaders of blocking a new economic relief deal, further narrowing the path for any agreement to emerge ahead of the election. Now, his comments came at the end of a day when Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats blocked a narrowly crafted GOP relief bill, which itself was much smaller than what the president wants. It was a $500 billion bill. Ridiculous. Not just, everybody just keep in mind, May 2020, it was middle of May 2020, right around May 15th, Democrats in the House of Representatives passed a $3.4 trillion HEROES Act, a $3.4 trillion HEROES Act for coronavirus funding, fund testing, to help provide aid for hospitals, help provide aid for states that are being crushed because of the amount of money they have to pay out in unemployment claims. Okay, that was May 2020. It also would have extended the $600 a week in federal unemployment insurance that people were getting as well, $600 a week. The $600 a week expired July 31st, 2020. Everybody knew that. The House and the Senate, they both knew that. The Senate still has not come to an agreement on a bill with the House. Democrats in the House passed the bill right around May 15, 2020. Moscow Mitch McConnell let the Senate go on a 1-month recess, and they had not come to an agreement on a bill with the House. And here we are. All right. Check out the updates also from NBCnews.com as well as Washington Post, okay, on coronavirus. We'll post this link here with updates from Washington Post. Washington Post is making their coronavirus updates free. The other articles you have to pay a subscription, because I have digital subscriptions to Washington Post and New York Times because I read them each day. All right. Let's go to... All right, so I want to go to this story here. We talked about it briefly yesterday. NBC News has a big story on this. With days left, Black voters face orchestrated efforts to discourage voting. With days left, Black voters faced orchestrated efforts to discourage voting. Okay. And this deals with a social media disinformation campaign. Some of this is domestic. Some of this is domestic. This is different than giving people the wrong date to vote, things like this, right? Among all of the social media disinformation campaigns that have preyed on voters in the run up to the November 3rd, 2020 election, one domestic originated tactic has become particularly troubling. Some Black social media influencers, as well as Black community groups on Facebook, who are more progressive than Joe Biden and his running mate, Senator Kamala Harris, are targeting African American voters less by deceiving them and more by ways experts describe as voter depression. Voter depression. Now, to me, voter depression is a form of deception as well. Okay. And I'm somebody that has a background in marketing. I understand messaging. Voter depression isn't about giving voters the wrong information that would keep them from making it to the voting polls, like discrediting mail-in ballots like Donald Trump is doing, by disparaging the postal service. Okay. Rather, with voter depression, the goal is to make people who would otherwise vote feel that there's no reason to do so, stoking inaction and apathy. Make them feel like there's no reason to vote, stoking inaction and apathy. Now, also, this article doesn't say this, but I'm just going to say this. Some of these people may be trying to sell you stuff at the same time. Okay, I just want to put that out there. Okay, and I find it interesting. See, they won't dissuade you from like playing the lotto. They won't dissuade you from playing the lottery. All right, some of the people that watch them and fall for this trap, okay, play the lotto every day. But you don't vote every day. You vote once, twice, every 2 years, once a year, depending upon the primary, something like that. So I find this whole thing just very interesting. Sick, but interesting. Rather than voter depression, the goal is to make people who would otherwise vote feel that there's no reason to do so, stoking inaction and apathy. And a lot of times when you have these various social media platforms, they could be, and they're talking about domestic. They ain't talking about Russian intervention. They're not talking about the Internet Research Agency. I've talked about that a lot. Okay. They ain't talking about that. They're talking about domestic. A lot of times these people have grievances and things like this and just complain. And now they won't tell you what to do. They won't provide like real logical solutions. Okay. They may say we all need to go back to Africa, but they haven't gone anywhere. They may not even have a passport, let alone a bus fare. Okay. I'm just saying. Now, this approach has been a particular challenge for the Biden campaign, while the same voter depression tactics are not being used as much on Republican voters. The same voter depression tactics are not being used as much on Republican voters, said Jacqueline Mason, a senior investigative researcher at First Draft, which is a nonprofit that provides research and training for journalists. Jacqueline Mason said, quote, "The absence of enthusiasm around a candidate can really contribute to interference in the form of voter depression." The absence of enthusiasm around a candidate can really contribute to interference in the form of voter depression. Now, she added that since many progressive Black voters might not be excited about voting for Joe Biden, it raises questions about what the point is of voting at all. My thing is, if you want, a lot of people, I earlier in the campaign, I would hear younger African American, maybe millennials, say they weren't inspired to vote. If you want inspiration, watch Denzel Washington and Remember the Titans. If you want inspiration, watch Samuel L. Jackson and Coach Carter. Okay, if you want, if you want inspiration, watch Glory or watch Selma. You don't vote for no damn inspiration. What the hell are you talking about? Elections have consequences. Politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. You don't vote for no inspiration. I mean, if you want inspiration, listen to Kirk Franklin. Listen to, listen to Mary Mary. I mean, what are you talking about? This ain't about we because civics has been taken out of school. People don't understand the consequences of elections. All the problems that we complain about are tied, or the side effects, or are the results of bad public policies. Politics impacts every aspect of your life, from the water you drink to the air you breathe to the food you eat. Okay, and let me put it like this. I know people mean well. If I see another commercial trying to get black people to vote with gospel music playing, I don't know what I'm gonna do. What you speak directly to the needs of the people, speak directly to the issues. Don't have gospel music playing in the background. And then also, when we talk about the need to vote, we need to deal with the issues, to show directly how the policies, whether you're talking about criminal justice reform, whether you're talking about making college affordable, and if you come from a household that has income of $125,000 or less, you can go to college for free. So you're not saddled with college debt. Forgiving $10,000 worth of college debt, and African Americans carry more college debt than white Americans. Speak directly to the issues. Trying to get people to vote, talking about exercise your right to vote. If you want exercise, go to the gym. You don't vote for exercise. I know people mean well, but you have to speak directly to people's conditions. Show how politics impacts every aspect of our lives, from the water we drink to the air we breathe to the food we eat. Speak directly to conditions. Whether you're talking about raising the federal minimum wage from $7.25 an hour to $15 an hour, which would benefit African Americans. We're not talking about a ceiling. We're talking about a floor. Okay, because African-American women make on average 62 cents for every dollar that the average white male makes. It takes the average African-American woman 20 months to make the same amount of money that the average white male made in 12 months. African-American men make 79 cents on the dollar. When you raise the federal minimum wage, you double the federal minimum wage, you can literally lift millions of people up out of poverty. You speak directly to the issues, talking about vote because your ancestors died for you to vote. We understand that history, but you vote based upon policies that impact us today and the future, not because somebody died. Is all right. But the absence of enthusiasm, okay, you don't vote for enthusiasm. We have to understand the conditions and how to change the conditions. Okay, and politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, the adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. Politics impacts your economic empowerment. Politics shapes the economy that your African-American owned business operates within. My degree's in business administration. I'm all for economic empowerment. Been preaching that for years. Managed companies where we had government contracts. Most of our employees were African Americans. So I understand this. I ain't talking about theory. I ain't talking about classroom stuff. I'm talking about real life understanding bidding on contracts, getting contracts, employing people, managing the general contracting company. Okay, a construction company. So I'm talking about like real life work. I ain't talking about what you read in textbooks, because half that stuff in the textbooks, it don't work like that in the real world, especially for African Americans. All right. So we have to understand this difference and how to communicate with our people to understand. When we talk about the protesting around the killing of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and things like this, the bill that Democrats put together, the George Floyd Police and Justice Act, it passed the House of Representatives. It was blocked in the Senate. That speaks directly to a lot of these issues, banning chokeholds, okay? All the types of things like this. It speaks directly to those issues, okay? So we have to do that as opposed to having gospel music playing. So, how much time we have? Okay. Now, when we look at memes and micro influencers, and I know people mean well, I'm not trying to attack people, but it's like, come on now, please stop the insanity. All right. Yeah, just don't do that, please. Now, earlier this month of October, an Instagram account with over 19,000 followers posted a video of a young African-American man asking a series of questions. Can we vote out systemic racism? Can we vote out police violence? Before answering, the obvious answer is no. Don't vote, he concludes. Okay. Now, I wonder who's behind that video, and how many videos like that did they target white Republicans? How many videos did they target white Republicans with messages like that? Now, that video is one of thousands of posts in an increasingly popular genre of social media content aimed at discouraging African Americans from casting their ballots this election cycle. One of the most prominent examples of voter depression has been the attacks on Senator Kamala Harris and her prosecutorial record during her tenure as the district attorney of San Francisco and later the attorney general of California. Now, we've done numerous fact checking here. A lot of those criticisms, a lot of that stuff is misstated and lacks context. We've dealt with that here. We talked about Tulsi Gabbard on the debate stage, Representative Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii, and the viral video and Tulsi Gabbard attacking Senator Kamala Harris and saying she locked up 1,500 people on marijuana charges, right? And then you had these dumbass memes floating around. Nobody knows who makes these memes. Do these people live in the U.S. who makes the memes or not? Nobody knows who makes the memes. And you had memes saying she locked up 1,500 black men, right? They provide no sources, no evidence to back that up. Tulsi Gabbard said 1,500 people. Tulsi Gabbard did not mention race nor gender. So how did 1,500 people become 1,500 black men on a meme citing no sources? Okay. Read this fact check from PolitiFact. We talked about all this here on this show, broke this down. All right. And what Tulsi Gabbard did, and also the one from Mercury News, Mercury News is even more in depth, because what Tulsi Gabbard did, she misrepresented she was talking about when Senator Kamala Harris was Attorney General. What she did was she took all the prosecutions in the state, about 1,500, and attributed that to Senator Kamala Harris as Attorney General. But the overwhelming majority of those prosecutions were held by local DAs who were elected by the people there, in like the county prosecutors. That wasn't her office handling that. That was local elected DAs handling that. But no explanation is given, because I saw people circulating that the video, and then I provide the fact check, and they're like, oh. So you wonder, well, what's behind all this? Okay, but this is a type of disinformation campaign. Okay, how you doing, Miss Jackson? This is a type of disinformation campaign. All right. And then the one from the Mercury News. Now, we went through all of this stuff like a week ago. If you go back and watch those shows, we did fact check of Senator Kamala Harris prosecutorial record, good, bad. It is what it is. We break it down, but we provide the context. A lot of that stuff is missing. A lot of that stuff is lacking. All right. Then I'm going to post the one from Mercury News also. Now, what's interesting, I had somebody send me, there's this meme floating around. And the reason why these memes float around is because it's harder for Facebook to detect the content of the meme. If it's actual text, they can detect it, and the algorithms pick up certain keywords, but it's harder in the memes. That's why that's part of this disinformation campaign. Okay, I understand messaging. I know what they're doing. All right. There's this meme floating around of a mosaic of people's faces together forming a portrait of Senator Kamala Harris. I had a dumbass send it to me the other day, and I sent them 2 articles dealing with fact checks, breaking this stuff down. The meme received some of its most popular shares from accounts of Black conservative social media influencers. The mosaic claims to be a composite image made up of, quote, all the Black men she locked up and kept in prison past their release date for jail labor, end quote. Now, it's been shared over 23,000 times on Facebook with no warning at the time of this article. This article came out October 16th, 2020. Shared 23,000 times on Facebook with no warning next to it that indicates that the image is not actually what it claims to be. A closer look at the mosaic reveals that the mosaic actually repeats the same faces over and over again. But they misrepresent it and say these are all the Black men she locked up and kept in prison past their release date for jail labor. They provide no sources to research this information, anything like this. This is a type of voter depression disinformation campaign. We posted the article from PolitiFact. See, I'm a researcher, so a lot of this Simple Simon ass nonsense that floats around on social media, you realize I don't deal with a lot of that stuff because I've already gone and researched it. I know the game. I know the hustle. Okay. And I know some of the hustlers too. Game recognizes game. Now, this one right here, this is probably one of the most extensive fact checks. This is from the Mercury News in California. The Mercury News. This deals, when we posted this on our fan page, he got something like 800, probably close to 1,000 likes. So I posted it a couple of times, and people hadn't done the research. Okay, so campaign fact check. Here's how Kamala Harris really prosecuted marijuana cases, and it goes through and really goes through and breaks everything down. And it is not largely, in general, it's not the way it's being represented or misrepresented in these memes. Okay. So how much time we have left, Shakita? You can come on and let me know, or you can text me if you want to. How much time we have left in the show? So many of these tactics have extended to the current election season. Just this month, Twitter banned a network of more than 24 accounts of users pretending to be Black Trump supporters. We talked about that here on this show. I shared an article on our fan page, the African History Network from Black America Web. It got over 2,000 likes. We talked about that last week. Black Trump supporters, or Monday, I think it was. These were fake accounts of of people pretending to be Black Trump supporters. All right. Let's see. You have clip. Which clip is this? Yeah, clip 1 queued up. Experts warn. No, not clip 1. Clip 2. Black voters face orchestrated efforts to discourage voting. Let's go to clip 2, Shakita.
Black voters were a prime target of disinformation campaigns back in 2016, and experts say they are being targeted again in 2020. This time, the goal is depressing Black voter turnout. NBCNews.com technology investigations reporter April Glazer wrote that story. She joins me now. April, this is more than just deceiving voters with information. How is voter depression different, and how is it specifically targeting Black communities?
Right. So unlike, misinformation where they might give you, wrong information about the validity of mail-in ballots online or memes pretending, or rather accounts pretending to be people that they're not, or activist groups that they're not, like we saw in 2016 with Russian disinformation. What we're seeing now with voter depression, the goal is more to make people who would otherwise feel that, who would otherwise vote, feel that there's really no reason to do so, right? And so what we're seeing is influencers on Instagram Live, memes circulating in closed Facebook groups, kind of stoking the question, the whole system is broken. Anyone who is a candidate up for election isn't going to fix it, so why vote? And we're actually seeing that spread really far and wide, and a lot of stuff go viral to that effect, really aimed at Black communities in particular, around the idea of, voting for president isn't going to change the fact that, police violence happens to be racist, right? Or that there's this history of racist police violence. So that's the type of stuff that we're seeing right now.
Tell us more about what's going on online to depress Black voter turnout.
Sure. So, we're seeing a lot of people on Instagram Live, particularly people who have developed audiences over long periods of time, speak direct to cameras, direct to their audiences, direct to people who trust them, asking questions about, if voting is really going to change anything. And they're saying, no, it's not. So why would you vote? Why would you even bother now? And a lot of it has to do with the fact that for many people who are very progressive or consider themselves even to the left of candidate Biden and vice presidential candidate Kamala Harris, that they are not proposing policy changes that are going to fix a lot of the systemic problems, for instance, of racist police violence happening in the country. And, why even vote for them? And so we're actually seeing this pop up as more of a problem for the Biden campaign, and a lot more voter depression happening on that side of the ticket rather than for the Republican side. When it comes to that, it's because there's kind of this enthusiasm gap. So when people, feel like they're just not that excited about any of their options, it's really easy for a bad actor to come in and for perhaps some viral strain that they're seeing over and over again on their social media feeds about, like, why would you even vote, really kind of take hold.
Okay, pause it right there, Shakita.
April, earlier this month, Twitter...
Pause it right there. All right. Okay, guys, we're out of time here on the 910 AM Superstation. We're going to continue on our social media platforms. So those watching on Facebook and YouTube, stay there. Follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and my YouTube channel, Michael M. Hotep, IMHOTEP. We're here Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to midnight Eastern Standard Time, Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right. Thanks for tuning in to the African History Network show, 910 AM Superstation and Future Radio. Right now, it's correct wrong behaviors. Not over till we win. Wakanda forever. Stay tuned for Michael Baisden, and we'll be back tomorrow night. All right. Stand by, everybody. Let me disconnect this call. Oh, we're going to continue here. All right. We'll continue here. All right. Stand by. How we do this? All right. How's everybody doing? And okay. All right. So let's continue here. If we go back to this article from now, name of that clip. First of all, name of that clip was. The clip is in this article. With days left, Black voters face orchestrated efforts to discourage voting. With days left, Black voters face orchestrated efforts to discourage voting. This is by April Glasser for NBCnews.com. We'll post a link here. It's an extensive article. You can check this out. All right, so let's continue. Now, many of these tactics have extended to the current election season. Just this month, Twitter banned a network of more than 24 accounts of users using stock images of Black people or images of Black people lifted from news stories and recycled to give a veneer of authenticity behind the fake accounts proclaiming allegiance to Donald Trump. And let's see here. We can pull up. We should be able to pull up this article here on the screen share. Let's pull up the other browser. Just give me a second here. Okay, yeah, because we talked about we talked about Twitter removing those accounts. I think it was on our Monday night show. And then the Guardian has a big article dealing with this also. Twitter suspends accounts for posing as Black supporters. Tuesday, October 13th, 2020. Twitter has suspended a network of accounts claiming to be owned by Black supporters of Donald Trump and his re-election campaign due to spam and platform manipulation. Twitter said on Thursday, October 13th, the company is investigating the activity and may suspend additional similar accounts if they are found to be violating its policies, a spokesperson said. The Washington Post first reported on the investigation, citing more than a dozen accounts using identical inauthentic language, including the phrase, "Yes, I'm Black and I'm voting for Trump." Now, a review of some of these suspended accounts shows they often use stolen images to appear real. These accounts sometimes claim to be owned by military veterans or members of law enforcement. This is not the first time Twitter has had to address a spam operation claiming to be led by Black voters. NBC News also reported spam operations from fake accounts posing as Black Trump supporters in August 2020. So check out the article from theguardian.com. We talked about that on Monday show. And then also there was a big article from blackamericaweb.com that dealt with this topic as well. Let's see here. Where's the one from? We got that one from, because when I posted the one from Black America Web, it got over 2,000 likes on our fan page. So you have to ask the question, well, if our vote didn't matter, why do people work so hard to suppress our vote? Fake Blacks for Trump accounts using digital blackface busted on Twitter. That's from blackamericaweb.com. Okay, so let's look here. Let's flip over. Should be able to turn on the screen share. Just a second. How's everybody doing? Also, if you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App. Also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show. paypal.me/the AHN Show. Okay. And that helps us because we're here 6 days a week now instead of 5 days a week, instead of 1 day a week, Sundays now. We're here 6 days a week. Okay. So the owner of the radio station called me and said he was changing the time of my show and the hour time slot opened up, so asked me if I wanted it Monday through Friday. So I said, okay, we'll see. Oh, you can advertise with the African History Network because I don't get paid to do radio, so the ads and the donations that helps like keep us going. You can advertise with the African History Network. Email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. Customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. Okay. All right. So let's flip over here. We should be able to flip over here on the screen share. There we go. Okay, so check out this article. With days left, Black voters face orchestrated efforts to discourage voting. And oftentimes, a lot of these platforms, everything they're complaining about is tied to politics. It's tied to laws, policies, things like this, right? And then those that preach economic empowerment, I'm all for economic empowerment, but we need to elect a president who's going to protect the economy that our economic empowerment and our Black-owned businesses operate within. Because the next story deals with the devastating impact of coronavirus economy. As of April of this year, we already lost 41% of Black-owned businesses. It's probably close to 50% now because this is October. All right, so many of these tactics have extended to the current election season. And let's see. These accounts amassed hundreds of thousands of retweets and followers before Twitter removed them. While these examples aren't explicitly voter depression tactics, they are part of a larger disinformation ecosystem that has focused on using Black identity as a way of manipulating the election. Okay, a way of using Black identity as a way of manipulating the election. But this election, many of the voter depression memes and posts circulating on social media aimed at dissuading Black people from voting in 2020 are not based entirely on false information, not based on entirely false information. So what they'll do, they'll have a grain of truth and then put layers of BS on top of this grain of truth. All right, this is what happens. While these examples aren't explicitly voter depression tactics, they are part of a larger disinformation ecosystem that is focused on using Black identity as a way of manipulating the election. Now, what makes voter depression narratives, and let's scroll down here so you all can see this. Oh, let me zoom in some. Let's try to zoom in. Okay, how's that? Is that better? Everybody's eyes, I mean, my eyes are not the best. So if I can see it, I know everybody else can. What makes voter depression narratives so appealing and difficult to dislodge is that there can be a grain of truth to them, Jacqueline Mason said. Voter depression targeting Black communities online, voter depression targeting Black communities online are picking up momentum because according to researchers, they're coming from accounts people already have relationships with. They're coming from accounts people already have relationships with and appear to be authentic. Quote, some of the tactics we worry about a lot, some of the tactics we worry a lot about are seeing more of are from micro influencers like on Instagram Live. He said George Craig, who's a vice president at GQR, which is a Democratic research firm who advises campaigns on disinformation. Now, micro influencers engaged in voter depression. Micro influencers engaged in voter depression may have as low as 10 to 30,000 followers and often speak to them directly to the camera, denigrating the value of voting. Quote, they are speaking to issues that present pathways to take what either candidate is saying about the voting process and saying instead, isn't this just kind of BS? Planting the question is a part of the strategy, Craig said. Now, it's a communication strategy, chipping away at what appears to be a preconceived belief. The name of the game in so many ways is about erosion of trust. End goal is to get their audience to then pose questions about the value of vote or friending their audience into messengers, making the concept more legitimate. Also, the part of this is about increasing their social media following, which gives them a larger platform. And usually, oftentimes, they may be trying to sell you stuff also. Okay, this is I know the game. All right, rebuilding trust. Some Black advocacy to undo voter depression efforts with similar tactics, focusing on sharing relatable information from individuals voters trust. Focusing on sharing relatable information from individuals voters trust. One group leading the work is the Political Action Committee run by racial justice organization Coalition, which has for years conducted advocacy campaigns at large social media platforms like Facebook, where disinformation and hate speech flourish. This year, the group is also working to engage African American voters who are most likely to be targeted by voter depression efforts, in part through a grassroots volunteer program where members are reaching out to friends and family to encourage them to plan to vote. Now, in all this, the most important thing, so what is important for people to understand is that in all of this discussion, we have to deal with understanding how laws and policies impact African Americans, impact our lives on a daily basis. Okay, from from taxes to the economy to disposable income to the environment, environmental justice, to understanding how pollution in the environment and rolling back of regulations exacerbates problems with asthma and bronchitis, etc., to understanding criminal justice reform, the role of the Department of Justice, understanding last night's show, we talked about a rollback that the Trump administration did to the criminal justice reform policies that were put in place by the Obama administration. All this deals with politics. Politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. Okay, so oftentimes you'll have people discouraging people from voting, and they're complaining. Like last night's show, we talked about on Tuesday's show, October 20th show, we talked about the development in the Breonna Taylor case and how the judge is allowing the records to be released and allowing the jurors to speak, jurors from the grand jury to speak. And you had one grand juror who spoke anonymously and said they were not given the option to seek homicide charges or anything like that. Juror in Breonna Taylor case said grand jury did not agree fatal shooting was justified. We can read this article from NBCnews.com. A grand juror who heard evidence in the Breonna Taylor probe said Tuesday that the grand jury did not agree that her death was justified, a disclosure that came after a Kentucky judge ordered records and proceedings released to show if, quote, publicly elected officials are being honest, end quote. Well, Attorney General Cameron, who's prosecuting the case, he's an elected official. So you can, on the one hand, complain about the outcome, and then on the other hand, say don't vote, because that how did he become Attorney General? Now the other thing is, and we talked about this on the Tuesday shows when you watch the rebroadcast, we break this down. I asked the question: would you want Attorney General Cameron of the state of Kentucky? Would you want him to be a judge? Would you want him to be a judge? You can answer yes or no. Well, back in right around September 9th, Donald Trump released a list of 20 names of potential people he would nominate to the Supreme Court. Attorney General Daniel Cameron was one of those names. So the president who's elected nominates Supreme Court justices. The Supreme Court justices are the U.S. Senate. The U.S. senators are elected. So a lot of most of the issues that people call about, like on 9 times station every day, complaining, the overwhelming majority of the issues are tied to the side effects of bad public policies written by politicians. So as I say, election day is the opportunity for you to fire the people you keep calling the radio shows every day complaining about. Because if you ain't going to fire them, then what are we doing? We're just going to keep tolerating it. So the reason why many of our people don't fight back, because many of our people don't think they're worth fighting for. The reason why many of our people don't fight back is because many of our people do not think they are worth fighting for. So when I teach about political self-defense, understanding how laws and policies impact the economic conditions of African Americans, We deal with understanding the law better than they understand the law, so we can defend ourselves against it and disarm them of that weapon, but also deal with voting strategically. Okay, always about what someone can do for you. It's also understanding what people are trying to do to you. Is understanding political self-defense. Check out this article here. This deals with Trump lists Kentucky. Here's from the Courier. Let's look at the one from Kentucky.com. Coming up, Kentucky.com. Let's try to pull this up. Just a second, stand by. Let's try to pull this up in a screen share. So a lot of people don't understand connected. Okay, the law, etc., who writes them, who votes on them, who puts them in place. When I talk to the activists and the protesters, when everybody's out in the street protesting police reform sparked by the killing of George Floyd, right? Well, you have to have people in office who were prompted to protest and your demands. How they get in office? They were elected or appointed by somebody who was elected. So all those who want criminal justice reform and ban chokeholds and all things like that, you got to have somebody who to your protest. They could just say the hell with you. You just turn the police on you like to clear Washington Square. You turn the police, turn the federal officers on the protesters, peaceful protesters, so he could walk across the street and hold a Bible upside down. Or the weak bill when the Republicans in the Senate vote against the Georgia Justice Act, and they get a weak bill passed that Senator Tim Scott sponsored, and it didn't go as far. The bill that Democrats passed in the House. Okay, so now they've put the George Floyd Act. They put that into the Jobs and Justice Bill 2020 that we talked about last night. Show that the CBC is trying to get passed. So a lot of this is understanding. All this is connected, and then understanding that we have to leverage our economics to enforce our politics. Also, leverage a lot of these people who are writing bad policies, regardless of political party. It's not about political party; it's about policies. A lot of these people who are writing these bad, who are passing these bad laws, need to fire them, run better ideology, and policies better match up with what our issues are. But we don't have to tolerate this. But the reason why many of our people don't fight back is because many of our people don't think that we're fighting for, which gives us our values, our interests. Principles. All right, stand by. I think this is breaking up. It gives us Florida's Latino voters being bombarded with right-wing misinformation, experts and advocates say. Misinformation swirling around the 2020 presidential race are reaching an alarming number of Latino voters in Florida through Spanish language social media sites, advocacy groups, and elected officials. The experts voiced concern barrage of misleading messages about Biden and the coronavirus often contain right-wing conspiracy theories could swing the state vote. Advocates pointed to some of the sources of disinformation flooding Latinos' social media feeds. Advocates pointed to Republicans and President Donald Trump as some of the sources of disinformation flooding Latino social media regarding the origins of the information was not okay. Now, Hector Sanchez, executive director of Mi Familia Vota, a nonprofit organization working to increase civic engagement in his communities, said, quote, "We have seen Biden being compared with Fidel Castro or Maduro, and that is why right now, as an organization, we're focusing on promoting making sure that nobody trusts the information that Trump and his allies too many related to misinformation and disinformation." All right, let me repeat. Says that in communities where Spanish is the dominant language, Latino voters are particularly to many challenges related to misinformation and disinformation. The trust in government is vulnerable to all types of misinformation, he said. Now, some people may ask, well, why are you talking about that? That's Latinos. You ever heard of Afro-Latinos? One. Two, they vote, and this is part of a disinformation campaign also, okay, to give them the wrong information so they vote for Trump. All right, which then has a devastating impact on us. All this is connected. And I guarantee you the same people that are feeding them misinformation to Latinos probably feeding us misinformation also. Here from abcnews.go.com, Florida's Latino voters being bombarded with right-wing misinformation, experts and all right. And then lastly, let's look at this article from CBS.com. Also, BlackAmericaWeb.com also picked up this article as well. There was a study done, and it deals with African American owned businesses. And where the hell I put that article? Hold on. I need to clean off my desk. I've got about 100 articles here, literally right here on my desk. What the hell? Just a second here. I just had it's not just a minute here, but this next topic deals with African American owned businesses. Black owned businesses headed for a disaster without federal aid polls. All the people who said 16, you had a lot of people who said we don't need to vote. We just need to do economic empowerment, invest in the stock market, build up our communities, build up our businesses. I said, that's good. I'm all for that. Okay. I've taught entrepreneurship for 7 years, managed a business years. You know, my degrees in business administration. I'm all for that. But policy and laws shape the economy that our Black-owned businesses operate within. So we need to vote for somebody who's going to protect the economy. We need people in the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate who will protect the economy. A small business poll paints a grim outlook for Black-owned companies. A small business poll paints a grim outlook for Black-owned companies, suggesting that more than half may be forced to close by April 2021 without federal relief. Suggesting that more than half may be forced for April 2021 without federal relief. Now, 600 entrepreneurs from all backgrounds how long they believed they could remain open in the current coronavirus slammed economy without government aid. Only 40% of Black respondents said last more than 6 months. Only 40% of Black respondents said they could last more than 6 months. Compared with 46% of Asian respondents, 48% of Latinx respondents, Latino respondents, and 55% of white respondents. So the African American owned businesses, it was the least amount who could survive the next 6 months. Only 40% of Black respondents said they could last more than 6 months, compared to 46% of Asian, 48% the next respondents, and 55% of white respondents. Now, the demise of small businesses to Main Street Alliance and Color of Change. The two groups that conducted the poll released Friday. This came out Friday, October 16th. Recovery would take decades, said Color of Change. Recovery would take decades. So we're looking at that this coronavirus pandemic has had on the economy, because you had incompetent leadership, as Obama said earlier. You had leadership who mishandled is the devastating consequences of these closures will ripple throughout Black communities and last for generations. Elections have consequences. The people in 2016 that told you don't vote, they probably didn't see this coming. The devastating consequences of these closures will ripple throughout Black communities and last for generations. Color Change President Rashad Robinson said in a statement, "Our federal can no longer wait to bring immediate to business.com." The Forbes, there's an article from Forbes that talks about um, the coronavirus economy has had on small black business. As of April 2020, we've lost 41%. 2020. Well, it's October, so it's probably closer to 50%. Now there were about 4 million African American owned business before the coronavirus pandemic. About 4 million owned businesses. Articles going back to like 2017, things like this, Black Enterprise, etc., that documents 4 million African American owned businesses. In about 2012 was about 2.6 million, somewhere around 2.6 million around 2012. I'm close to right around 2 million businesses that we lost. Now, Congress must pass the Health and Economic Recovery Omnibus Emergency Solutions Act, also called the Health and Economic Omnibus Emergency Solutions Act, or HEROES Act, said Amanda Ballentine, Ballantine, Alliance's executive director. The nation should include subsidies. The legislation should include subsidies to small businesses, eviction protection, and expanded unemployment insurance. All this deals with laws and policies impact the economy, that impact your African-owned business. Okay, all of this is statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. All this impacts African American owned businesses. So what we have to understand is most businesses on the premise that people will have money to come spend with us so we can stay in business and don't in a cubicle next to them at their job. But often, but many times people that positively impacts their as opposed to impacts Africans as a whole. You don't have money to spend with your business, guess what? You're gonna have to cut back on hours, cut back on employees, or you may go out of business. So a lot of times we don't look at how all of this is connected. So Ballantine said black business danger of failing because designed to keep small companies afloat during the pandemic, including the Paycheck Protection Program and economic injury disaster loan. Now, all this is all in the people. All right. Now, Democrats have been, it would have been much better. Donald Trump removed the inspector general that was supposed to oversee how the money was distributed. He removed the inspector general and put in one of his cronies. Flaws in the program. Experts to get relief, and they received less than they applied for, said Amanda Ballentine. Of black-owned businesses lucky enough to get federal relief, many received less money than they applied for. Example is that of Miami business owner Kimberly Douglas, 1-year-old company produces a film festival highlighting movies directed by women. Kimberly Douglas said that before the pandemic, she had 10 employees. And Florida began its statewide shutdown to convert film. Hell, she had to online. Said the PPP I didn't even bother with. We were too young of a company. We hadn't had those financial relationships, had payroll and all of that, and that was requested to receive that. Now, she applied for the economic injury disaster loan, the EIDL, and received it, but only the amount. As a result, Kimberly said she had to lay off 6 of her employees, with 4 remaining as volunteers. She had to lay off 6 of her employees, with 4 remaining as volunteers. All right, so read the rest of this article here. So this talks about how the need for there to be another round of coronavirus bill, and funding for small businesses, okay, especially small African American owned business. Check out this article from CBS. Headed for disaster without federal aid, poll finds. Look, hey, we're going to get out of here. The midnight Eastern time, African Facebook Network, the History Network. Turn on notifications when we, so you know when we go live. Follow us on our YouTube channel, Michael M. Hotep, IMHOTEP, on YouTube also. And look out for me on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Fridays, 6 p.m. I'm a panelist on Roland Martin Unfiltered. And then, you know, we're also here on Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern History Network show. We're here for 2 hours Sunday. All right. Remember, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African diaspora and around the world. Now it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you tomorrow night. Peace.
into why DNI Ratcliffe described this as an effort to hurt President Trump?
I wonder that myself, and the one thing that I can think of is that this made the Proud Boys look bad, and the head of the chairman of Proud Boys is a gentleman named Enrico Tarrio, who is also the Florida State chairman or director of Latinos for Trump, and so it associates the Proud Boys with Trump and a hack with Proud Boys. But honestly, I'm a little bit flummoxed myself.
Yeah, flummoxed is actually the word of the day today on a lot of different levels. Washington Post national political reporter Amy Gardner, thank you for being here. Thanks to you and your colleagues for this reporting. I look forward to seeing how this story develops. Thanks. I want to bring into the conversation now former FBI Assistant Director and NBC News national security contributor Frank Figliuzzi. Frank, thank you very much for joining us on this as well. As I was just confessing to Amy Gardner at the Post there, I feel flummoxed by what we heard from DNI Ratcliffe tonight and what the public are supposed to make of what they've just announced here. What's your reaction to what you've seen this evening?
Well, flummoxed is a kinder, gentler word we can use. I am deeply concerned that this is a glimpse of what I have been calling the coming chaos. Where to begin, Rachel? Look, we had a press conference controlled by the DNI. Number one, that struck me as unusual and really almost unprecedented in terms of announcing an operational investigative type finding. That's not supposed to happen. Number two, we saw the play the Russian angle here and play up Iran and play up that this was all intended to somehow damage the president. That's a political spin on what should be a law enforcement and intelligence press conference. We saw the director of the FBI, as you mentioned, play a minor secondary role, largely because he was probably ordered to do so and wants to stay in the fight and do his best with his agency, stay at the helm. But we also saw the absence of the Attorney General of the United States tonight, which is very, very unusual. He's not made a whole lot of public appearances recently. But here's what concerns me operationally for the future. If a foreign power can get our voter registration data and then target our address with it, get messages to us, they can take that data and they can change potentially your voting location. So we talked about this kind of thing for months, that you don't have to mess with the actual outcome of the vote, but rather you can have chaos on election day when people show up, show their ID where they usually vote, and be told that their voting place is across the city, or they are not even registered anymore. This is a signal. It's called a signal in the cybersecurity world that I'm inside, I can do this, I'm here, and there's more to come. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. The fact that we are already politicizing this kind of intelligence work is deeply harmful. And don't be surprised if you see this theme replicated in the next days and weeks by the president, who will just to damage me. I'm on top of this. But we're not on top of this. We have holes in our county, local, and state registration systems. We've been saying this. Senator Mitch McConnell has turned down extra money for security. And now we are realizing just now that we have ancient Windows operating systems that are trying to, with Scotch tape, trying to hold together computer systems that hold registration data and voter information. We're in for a bumpy ride, Rachel.
I think part of what was concerning to me about what Dr. Ratcliffe here said tonight is the distance between what he said and the kind of concerns that were expressed, I mean, literally to me and to this show from a number of people who received these emails, were weirded out by them, sent them to us. Most people told them who sent them to us. They told us they were always also sending to FBI and local law enforcement, which is great. But the reason people were sending them to the host of a cable news show they look at is because it's very concerning to see your real name, your real email address, and your real physical address on this type of a targeted threat email that's saying we're going to come get you unless we do what we say. Now, it has to be pointed out, and it can't be said enough, that whoever people vote for in the election is secret. Nobody knows who you voted for unless you tell them, and nobody's going to know whether you vote for President Trump or for Vice President Biden. But people feel like somebody, I mean, when you get an email like this which points out your street address, it freaks people out. Now, that information, I don't know if that information is this thing that Director Ratcliffe was describing driving when he said that Iran and Russia have access voter registration information. But it's, I think, worth pointing out to people that kind of information from the voter file is the sort of thing that campaigns have, that lots of different entities have access to. You don't have to have carried out some sort of major international hacking operation in order to get people's names and real addresses. He didn't clarify that at all, and I think that he's left a lot of people with the impression that the only reason their address is out there because of some foreign military intelligence service hacking it.
Well, you're right. Conspicuous by its absence tonight was any kind of detailed information about which country did what. They're not even sharing country attribution with the local and state authorities. So we don't know who's responsible for what. It's looking like Trump reporting that perhaps Iran owns this Proud Boys thing. And yes, maybe in their view of our culture, if you associate violent threats with the Proud Boys, you're dragging in the president to it, who seems to have aligned himself with Proud Boys. Maybe that's where they're coming from. But I have to tell you, there's a larger agenda here with both Iran and Russia, which is simply to sow discord and chaos. And so when, on the trust issue and the fact that you raised that all of us, you, me, were getting friends and strangers sending us this, what do I do with it? I had it happen today, and I refer them to their local field law, FBI field laws. This is all about the lack of trust that that is being gendered in us about the eventual outcome of this election. And again, I'm not only concerned about the external threat that's doing this to us, it's deeply concerning, but I'm also concerned about the internal threat that's going to keep amplifying this lack of trust. We can't trust the outcome, and you're going to see this